Obviously, we have expressed our concerns directly to the Russians about the possible sale of this anti-ballistic missile system to the Iranians. The concerns that we have, though, are, while significant, are separate and apart from the ongoing negotiations that are aimed at preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
So, in other words, take off the terrorism requirement, take off the S-300 missiles.
We have expressed our concerns. Oh, I'm sure they're trembling in Moscow and in Tehran. This is an extremely important thing that has just happened. What the Russians are giving the Iranians is the most sophisticated air defense system on the planet. It can track 100 targets at once. It means that once it arrives in Iran as an installed, probably by the end of the year, they will be essentially invulnerable to any Israeli or even American attack. So when Obama says if they cheat, we can reimpose sanctions, we have the military option, everything's on the table, that is no longer so. But look at why this occurred. This was done by the Russians in response to the announcement 3 weeks ago, the giddy announcement by the Secretary of State in Geneva, in Lausanne, that we had had this interim agreement, which in fact we do not have. As we heard from the Iranians, there is no agreement on sanctions, no agreements on inspection, no agreements on anything of substance. So in order to make it look as if we had an agreement, which was done as a way to stop Congress from acting at the time, we make this announcement. The Russians say, well, if there's already this agreement, if we're already on the path, we are now going to allow the sale of the missiles. This is the damage done before the agreement is even signed. Imagine what the damage is going to be afterwards.
Well, Iran has a lot of different cards it plays. One that is obviously of tremendous importance to the United States, as has been discussed now, is the nuclear one. But it does have its role in Iraq, as I mentioned, with its influence sometimes in Baghdad. It does have its support to the regime in Syria. It does have its support for Hezbollah in Lebanon and to an extent in Syria. It has its presence in Yemen, the Horn of Africa. It does play its influence in Afghanistan. It has its tensions with Pakistan on its borders. So when you deal with Iran, you have to deal with Iran with all these different cards to have a better understanding of it. You've got to connect all these dots together. All these issues are areas of instability. So these are things that have to be discussed with the Iranians. You can't, I think...
Abdullah is joining in that plea. That's the point of connecting the dots. What he is saying in a measured way, but if you read between the lines, I am astonished that the United States looks at Iran extending its aggression everywhere. He names all the countries. Is now extending its influence, destabilizing, threatening all its neighbors. And the United States, together with the idea about the missiles being supplied, is pretending as if it can do the nuclear deal in isolation. It's going to be feeding the Treasury, apart from the fact that it gives Iran a path to develop nukes, it's going to be putting hundreds of billions of dollars into the Iranian Treasury precisely to accelerate its aggression. And Obama's idea that it will moderate its aggression is simply lunatic.
And quickly, Mara, today, the official word that...